we will start with the invocation. Tonight we will be reading from the 18th chapter, 66th verse. What is this verse about? No, one word. What is it about? What is it about? Surrender. Okay, you got it. I knew you'd figure it out. Okay. First, the invocation. Remember that word. We'll get back to it, okay? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right. Sarva, come in. Oh, it's a couple pages behind here. Dharmam parityaja mam ekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashami ma suchaha sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashami ma suchaha. The word for word. Sarvadharmam. All varieties of religion. Parityaja, abandoning. Mam, unto me. Ekam, only. Saranam, for surrender. Vraja, go. Aham, I. Tvam, you. Sarva, all. Papebhya, from sinful reactions. Mokshayashami, will deliver. Ma, do not. Suchaha, worry. Translation. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Pay attention, this is going to be on the test. We will read the purport by Srila Prabhupada, and pay attention because there will be a test after this. So I want you to try to come up with some of the answers, because this is the point. I can give a class to myself at home, and first I will ask Prabhupada what I said. I went into Srila Prabhupada's room on March 2nd, 1972, and I said, Srila Prabhupada, I'm on my way to Africa now. I hope this gives me an opportunity to increase my service to you. And Prabhupada put his hands behind his head and said, service to Lord Chaitanya, service to Lord Chaitanya, service to Lord Chaitanya. So I asked Prabhupada, as he wrote to me in a letter, that he is praying to Krishna, that I will have the strength and enthusiasm to carry out this service. So since I'm not very qualified, I'm praying to Prabhupada that he will give me the strength and enthusiasm to bring something out of this teaching that we can all use. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Remember that I'm going to test you on these things. The Lord has described different kinds of knowledge and processes of religion. Knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, knowledge of the Supersoul, knowledge of the different types of orders and statuses of social life, knowledge of the renounced order of life, knowledge of non-attachment, sense and mind control, meditation, etc. He has described in so many ways different types of religion. Now, in summarizing Bhagavad-Gita, the Lord says that Arjuna should give up all the processes that have been explained to him. He should simply surrender to Krishna. That surrender will save him from all kinds of sinful reactions. for the Lord personally promises to protect him. In the 7th chapter, it was said that only one who has become free from all sinful reactions can take to the worship of Lord Krishna. Thus, one may think that unless he is free from all sinful reactions, he cannot take to the surrendering processes. To such doubts, it is here said that even if one is not free from all sinful reactions, simply by the process of surrendering to Krishna, he is automatically freed. There is no need of strenuous effort to free oneself from sinful reactions. One should unhesitatingly accept Krishna as the supreme savior of all living entities. With faith and love, one should surrender unto him. The process of surrender to Krishna is described in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam, rakshyas atati vishvaso, goptave varanam tata, atmanikshe karpane, satvija saranagati. According to the devotional process, one should simply accept such religious principles that will lead ultimately to the devotional service of the Lord. One may perform a particular occupational duty according to his position in the social order. But if by executing his duty one does not come to the point of Krishna consciousness, all his activities are in vain. Anything that does not lead to the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness should be avoided. One should be confident that in all circumstances, Krishna will protect him from all difficulties. There is no need of thinking how one should keep body and soul together. Krishna will see to that. One should always think himself helpless and should consider Krishna the only basis for his progress in life. As soon as one seriously engages himself in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, at once he becomes freed from all contamination of material nature. There are different processes of religion and purificatory processes by cultivation of knowledge, meditation, and the mystic yoga system. But one who surrenders unto Krishna does not have to execute so many methods. That simple surrender unto Krishna will save him from unnecessarily wasting time. One can thus make all progress at once and be freed from all sinful reactions. One should be attracted by the beautiful vision of Krishna. His name is Krishna because he is all attractive. One who becomes attracted by the beautiful, all-powerful, omnipotent vision of Krishna is fortunate. There are different kinds of transcendentalists. Some of them are attached to the impersonal Brahman vision, some of them attached to the supersoul feature, etc. But one who is attached to the personal feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and above all, one who is attracted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Krishna himself, is the most perfect transcendentalist. In other words, devotional service to Krishna in full consciousness is the most confidential part of knowledge. This is the essence of the whole Bhagavad-Gita. Karma yogis, empiric philosophers, mystics, and devotees are all called transcendentalists, but one who is a pure devotee is the best. Particular words used here, ma suchaha, don't fear, don't hesitate, don't worry, are very significant. One may be perplexed as to how one can give up all kinds of religious forms and simply surrender unto Krishna, but such worry is useless. So what does Krishna want us to do instead of having so many religious ideas? What about our sinful reactions? He'll deliver us?
Yes.
How do we know that?
He says he
Okay, good. All right, that's it. Good. Now, what is the Lord described in the beginning of the purport? He's described things to us in the beginning of the Bhagavad-Gita. Various kinds of knowledge. What were these knowledge that he described?
karma yoga, dhyana yoga, bhakti yoga.
And if he wants us to transcend these, why is he explaining them to us? Just like he explains to us the difficulties of the mode of ignorance and passion, why does he explain those to us?
So that we can come out from there.
So that we can also understand there's something better. If I put 3 bills down here, 10 rupee note, 50 rupee note, and a 2,000 rupee note, and show you the value of each, the idea is to show that these others are available, they are worth something, but they are not worth as much. That's why he says that renunciation and knowledge is better than just renouncing, not knowing what you're doing. So we have to know. Sankhya means counting. We have to know what the value of things in the mode of ignorance is, what the value of things in the mode of passion is. There is some value in the process of jnana yoga. There is some value in the process of meditation. There is some value even in the hatha yoga. So why does Krishna explain these to us? And if there is some value in that, then why don't we do those instead? By going back to the notes. If I said, come and pick one of these notes, and you walk up and pick the 2,000, I said, why didn't you pick the 50? Because, why? The other one is more valuable. So Krishna has to explain to us the value of things so that we will do it out of knowledge. If you pick something but you don't know why, you may not want to keep it. He says that the process of surrender in knowledge is far greater. So Krishna wants us to know this. So which one is important, the jnana or the bhakti? They both are important. We need the jnana for the bhakti, but we need the bhakti as the ultimate. Bhakti is the ultimate goal. And you got that before. What happens with the sinful reaction? What does Krishna say? Prabhupada says in the purport, the Lord personally what? Promises to protect him. So it's like when Krishna says, this is my opinion. Is it pretty good that that's fact? Yeah. Yes. So if Krishna promises something, is he capable of delivering on that?
Yes.
That's why we surrender to Krishna, because there are some people who give us promises. And some of these people who give us promises may be well-meaning, but they have imperfect senses and they're not capable of fulfilling the promises. Other people may be an illusion and they're not sure how to fulfill the promise, or they may even forget it. Other people make mistakes, give you the wrong promise. Sometimes people give you things that are not good for you. And worse than all of that, the other tendency, Prabhupada mentions this before he even starts the Gita. What does he write before the Gita? What is it called? There's a part he uses to introduce it. What is it called? No. Before he starts in the Gita, he gives about 30 pages to introduce it. What is that part called? Introduction. I gave it away. I should know if he's introducing it. It's introduction. And right away in there he says that Krishna speaks Bhagavad-Gita, and Krishna can promise these things because he's not subject to those 4 defects that we discussed. Who can name just one of those defects, one per customer? Tendency of cheating. With imperfect senses. What else?
Make mistakes.
Make mistakes. An illusion. Okay, raise your hand if you don't have these. Okay, good. So, this is why Krishna can promise this, and this is why we surrender to him. So we have to become free from sinful reactions, correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
No, it's true. We do have to become free from sinful reactions. But do we have to extraneously free ourselves? And even if we haven't qualified ourselves can we still become free? By surrendering to Krishna. See, this is the easy path. It's like if I tell you, you can go into the restaurant by going right through this door, or you can go out this way, go to Loy Bazaar, come back around the Parikama Marg, come back through here and go to here. It's true, but it's an indirect process. Krishna is giving us the easiest and the most sublime process to come back to him. After we have the Mangalartik and then we have Nrsimha prayers and announcements, one day Panchagoda read from a letter from Prabhupada, and he read in that how Krishna wants us to come back to him even more than we want to come back. So he is thinking of arranging the ways and means to get there. It's just like if I want to fly to America, what do I have to do? Flap? And then what do? Figure out how to fly? I just get on the airplane and let the airplane take me there. Is this airplane safer than crossing the street here? It is. You know, in this town, there's so many people are killed by cars. The Emirates airline has hundreds of those A380s, and they've never lost a passenger yet. And yet people are afraid to fly more than they are to cross the street here. Take your bead bag with you when you cross the street here. It's amazing. Just last week, 10 people were killed in an auto rickshaw when a car hit it at Govardhan. Now cars are not allowed on Govardhan, so it shows that we're worried about so many things that maybe can't hurt us. And we're not afraid of other things that can hurt us. And we look for shelter somewhere, something that may not give us shelter. In the Bhagavatam class today, we were talking about the person who fought for the demigods. What's the name? Yes, Katvamanga. Yes, Katvamanga. And he was given, he said how long the demigod said they could give him any benediction except what? Liberation. So they're big, powerful people, but they're still limited, aren't they? This is where Narada Muni figured it out. Lord Brahma's a pretty powerful guy, isn't he? They say 4 heads are better than 1, isn't it? But Narada Muni noticed that if Brahma was worshiping someone else, there must be someone more powerful than him. So, if these demigods can do great and wonderful things, but they can't do even a fraction of what Krishna can do, which one should we surrender to? Krishna. So we're looking for all kinds of shelter. This is natural. But if we take the wrong kind of shelter, it won't work. Just like to make the light work, it has to be plugged into the shelter, which is the socket which connects to the powerhouse. But if we plug it into somewhere else, nothing will happen. Even if our desire is there, but the desire is natural. We are looking for some shelter. And this is one of the things we have to understand about the surrender. It's not like that light switch that we just turn it on and off, correct? In the beginning, are we able to fully follow all these processes of surrender? So he says here that one should simply accept the religious principles that will lead one to the devotional service. And what if his occupational duty doesn't help him? Isn't that the important thing, just to do your duty? Many Indians quote this verse in Bhagavad-Gita where Krishna says, you have a right to perform your duty. But what do they forget? The last half of the verse says that you are not entitled to the results. So you can't just pick the parts you want It's like if you're making a cake or a preparation, you can't just take the parts you want and take out the parts you don't want and think you will come up with the same formula. You have to follow the recipe as it's given. So sometimes people have a process. Like Christian people say, well, you just accept Christ or surrender to Christ. That sounds good, but what does that mean? When they say that, what does that mean? It's vague because they're not sure exactly either. Right? It's just like if you hire someone, you say, work for me. It's like if I say to you, okay, now you're going to work for me. Now is your duty clear? No, you need to know what to do. This is what's amazing in that process where Krishna says, surrender unto me. Now, he says, give up all varieties of religion, which means that we don't get stuck on the particular rituals. South India, they're very big on this. How many times they ring the bell and how many drops of water they put on the article before they offer it. But Krishna is saying that it isn't the ritual, it's the love and the surrender that's important. So what happens if we're not able to surrender right away? Give up? Do some people have difficulty surrendering, but later on they're able to? Raise your hand if you never had any difficulty surrendering ever. Never? What's that? Yes. So, Prabhupada says if we're not against the principle of surrender, it will come about. I've seen over the years that some people struggle, even make many mistakes, but they keep on trying. Like that one about the story of the sparrow was the ocean washed away its eggs, so it was going to drink up the whole ocean. It was an impossible task, but Garuda came to help. Or the thing about the itsy bitsy spider walked up the spout and down came the rain and washed the spider out, but he went back up again. So we have to keep trying the process. We don't just give up just because there is some difficulty. We find that there may be a few things planted in our mind from this life and other lifetimes. Probably none of you have experienced that. Past conditioning? None of you have that? Raise your hand if you don't suffer from any past conditioning, ever. Past conditioning is there, but it can be taken out by adding something else. So when we talk about surrender, he's talking about a process of surrender. This comes to some strategic planning and some tactical action. So in this case, what would we mean by strategic planning to surrender? Yes?
We could start by following the instructions of Guru.
Yes, but that's where it's following the instructions. But for strategic planning, what do we do for that? What's the reason I know more about Bhagavad-Gita than I know about cricket? Because I've done what? Before you study, what do you have to do? No, not just research. Something that's simple. What? No. What? Planned? Oh, closer? Yeah, planned? Or allocate the time for it. Why didn't I learn cricket? How much time have I allocated for it? So the beginning of planning to surrender is we allocate the time for it. Like there's a time when the Mangal Arti goes on, so we allocate that time to be in the temple. Now if we're going to chant rounds, we have to allocate some time to do it, don't we? So I say it's true, we follow the Guru's instructions, but we say, yes, I'd like to follow the Guru's instructions, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. Will that do us much good? No. So we have to allocate, not only do we have the surrender and following it, but we have to allocate the time. As we're going to follow the Guru's instructions, what do we have to find out? What the instructions are is a good point. So we have to find out what they are, and then we allocate the time to follow these. And then in the tactical, we try to do these to the best of our ability. And when we talk about process of devotion, there's some different things that we can do. Somebody name one of those. Yes?
Accept things favorable.
Accept things favorable. What else do we do then? Yes, it's very simple. We accept everything favorable and reject everything unfavorable. It's very simple, but it's not always easy. But it is possible by constant practice and detachment. So what are some of the processes that we do? Like you say, oh, go have devotion. Well, what does that mean? Like I say, play in the band. You have to have an instrument, right? So when we have processes of devotion, what, chanting? That's one of the processes, chanting. Okay. Who can think of another one? Holy books? Shastra? And that's in the form of hearing. So we're talking about hearing, right? Hearing, chanting. Association. See, there's two things we're going. One is that there's 9 processes of devotion, and the other is, I guess but we'll just merge these together. The other is there's 5 different things that we do, which appear to be material, but they actually become spiritual, and they're bridges to Krishna. And there are 5 particular things that help us relate to Krishna. So we really have 9 processes and 5 things. 2 of the processes we mentioned were chanting and hearing, and 2 of the 5 we mentioned are studying the scripture and associating with devotees. So there's 3 more in the process of the 5 things, and there is 7 more in the process of the 9. So who can think of one of those?
Worshipping the deity.
Worshipping the deity, yes. Living in the Dham, okay.
It's also chanting.
What's that?
It's also chanting.
Yes.
It becomes an endlessness process.
Yes. And so what else is, yes. So what else is there in the processes? There's 5, but then there's 9 processes. Kirtanam, don't say them all, only one. Remembering, okay. Hearing, chanting, remembering. What else? Archanam, yes, see, the deity is there in that too. See, some of these overlap, but that's okay. Serving the lotus feet. What else? Vandanam. What is Vandanam? Prayers, that means they ask, please give me this, like they pray to Santa Claus, or what does it mean? Oh? When we pray, we don't mean like they pray to Santa Claus, right? You all know who Santa Claus is?
Yes.
He's the God for most people, isn't he? Because they go and say, I'd like to have this, I'd like to have that. That's what they do at Christmas time. They sit on Santa Claus's lap and ask for gifts or boons from him. So if people go to the demigods and ask like this, they might as well be praying to Santa Claus, isn't it? Some of the people treat their guru like he's the Santa Claus, their fairy godmother. He comes to town and having this problem with my son, and I need this and I need that. But the guru we're supposed to surrender to, not ask him to be our fairy godmother. Who wants to treat their guru like a fairy godmother? Anybody have a guru who asked them to treat them like a fairy godmother? I don't think so. Did they? So what else do we have in there? Atmani Vedanam. And making friendship, that's the other one. So this one is coming to Atmani Vedanam, surrendering everything. But at the same time, it's a process. We begin by doing these processes of hearing and chanting. And we end up by surrendering everything. Because it's a concept. We don't say, okay, you tell someone they walk in here, what do? You surrender everything to Krishna. They say, okay, I surrender everything to Krishna. And then they go out and do whatever it is they did before. Is that surrendering to Krishna?
No, not yet.
Does that mean we have a feeling of love for Krishna?
No.
We love Krishna, but we do other things?
No.
No?
No.
I was reading somewhere in there that And one of the purports in the first canto that you can't have, you have to have pure love to associate with Krishna, but to have pure love, you have to have pure actions. And to have pure actions, you have to have, pure thoughts. And then have that, you have to have eaten pure food. So it goes along a saying that we have to keep all of the things that we have to realize that even our thoughts are like prayers. The things that we think about become our working awareness. And our working awareness becomes our desires. And then our desires become our actions, and our actions determine who we are. We can't, I was saying, there was one politician was saying, there's a difference. When bad people do bad things, that's bad. But when good people do bad things, that's okay. Right? Like if bad people steal your money, that's bad. But I'm a good person, so if I steal your money, it's okay. Correct? Is it? Don't we determine who we are by what we do? What's that saying? What is it? Pretty is as pretty does? That's an old saying, but it's what you're doing that determines who you are. Now, of course, we may have some mixed results, but we have to remember, when do we surrender? All the time, but particularly now. Because it's easy to say, well, you know what? I'm going to surrender all the time, starting tomorrow. But you know what? Because I'm not doing it today, I'm going to do it twice as much tomorrow. Does that count for it?
No.
How does Krishna explain this in Bhagavad-Gita? What kind of determination is that?
Always think of it.
Is that goodness, passion, or ignorance? The determination that doesn't go beyond dreaming is in the mode of ignorance. There's one cartoon, it's in the book about Grahastha life, and the one person says, he says, do you give 10% of your income to Krishna? And he says, if I win the lottery, I'll give 90% of my income to Krishna. Now what does that count for? Does it count for something? Can you borrow money from the bank based on that?
No.
No. So it's what you do that counts. Prabhupada said, don't say you love me, bring me my shoes. So what we do for Krishna. But we see there's many processes of surrender, and that's why the process of japa and kirtan is good, because in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, it's talking about different kinds of sacrifice. It talks about how they offer the process of hearing in the fire of the controlled mind. So we control the mind when we're hearing the mantra. Some people, when they're chanting japa, they do better to chant slow and concentrate. Other people do well to go fast, because then they have to concentrate so much they can't think of something else. So when we're chanting, what should we be thinking about? And who else?
Only Krishna.
How about Radharani and Rama?
Only Krishna.
The names. We think about the names that we're chanting, yes?
Yes.
Yes. We put them in the ear. Now, it's nice, sometimes we look at a picture of Krishna and we're chanting, or sometimes people are thinking pastimes, but the most important part is that you're hearing the words that you're saying. Then you'll get the right result. The one devotee was about to die, and the 2 Yamadutas came to get him. He says, you can't take me, I'm a devotee. So they went away, and then he started chanting. And then they came back to take him. He said, why are you taking me? He says, well, you've been calling us all our lives. And he says, how's that? And the one Yamaduta says, well, my name is Nish Nish, and this is Na Na. And you keep chanting, Nish Nish Na Na, Nish Nish Na Na, Nish Nish Na Na. Or saying, here kitty, 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 here kitty, kitty, kitty. And all the cats come instead of Krishna. But you shouldn't be surprised that if you're chanting kitty, 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 that the cat comes and not Krishna. So, if we call you by the name, right, I call you by the wrong name, you might not come. So we have to be very careful to say this name correctly. There's only 3 names that we chant in the Maha Mantra. Can you remember them all? What is the first one? Yes. And we practice chanting that many times a day. If we chant 16 rounds a day, how many names is that in a month? About 1 million? And it's about 12 million in a year. If you chant 3 lakhs of names, it's 12 million in a month. Haridas Thakur chanted as much in a month as we can chant in a year. But still think that's 1 million names if you do 16 rounds a day. So we should be practiced to concentrate on those. So is that a form of surrender? Or should we just surrender to Krishna and not chant? Which one do we do? Surrender to Krishna or chant? Doesn't it go together? So chanting to Krishna is surrendering, but when we're surrendering, if we're going to allocate the time to it and spend the time doing it, we might as well do it correctly. We might as well be thinking about it and keep it close in our mind. And then Krishna removes these obstacles. Even if it takes time, it's okay. We think, Krishna, I'm willing that at some point you can remove these obstacles in me that are standing in the way of me serving you better. And I'm willing to have this happen. Krishna is capable of doing this. We have to remember that. Krishna is giving us this promise here that he will take away these things. He says, Prabhupada mentions the Masuchaha means do not worry, do not fear, do not hesitate. Because you say, that's all great, I'll do it tomorrow. But what do they say about tomorrow? Tomorrow never comes, right? My son used to wake up and say, is it tomorrow yet? But it can't be tomorrow, because tomorrow's the day after today. So we have to not hesitate and procrastinate, thinking, I will do this later. Later is good, right? Is it good? I use the example, if I was giving away kilos of gold, would you say, well, I'll think about it later? Or would you come get one? So if something's valuable, the window of spiritual opportunity is open. And sometimes Krishna pushes us to take that opportunity. And when he's giving us this kind of moment of clarity, we should try to take it. I got this when we see by association that the devotees had come from Los Angeles and they preached to the people at Mystic Arts World, which was kind of a hippie center. And all of my friends there used to say that someday for real spiritual life, we have to give up illicit sex and intoxication. But later, this is even what St. Augustine said, please God, make me chaste, meaning celibate, but don't do it yet. So we're hesitating, how far do we get? If I hesitate to make a journey, how far have I gone? I haven't gone anywhere yet. So we have to remember this, not to hesitate, to start the journey and to continue the journey. To continue the journey, not to hesitate, even if we're not doing it as well as someone else. Krishna's saying, do not fear. Whatever bit we can surrender. But this is why it's good to take the action. We don't just say, well, one person told me, well, you don't need to chant 16 rounds. It's the quality that's important, not the quantity. So I said, I have some very good prasadam. It's the best quality ever. So I gave him 1 grain of rice. He says, do I get more? I said, well, you told me quality was important, not quantity. So which one is important, quality or quantity? Both. Both are important, just like electricity. You have amps times volts makes watts. So if you have 10 watts and 10 amps and 10 volts, you get 100 watts. But if you have 100 volts, but only 1/1,000,000th of a watt, you don't get very much. You have to have a lot on both sides. You can't use one as an excuse to not have the other. You can't say quantity is important, I don't need quality, and you can't say that quality is important, I don't need quantity. The two of them multiply each other. So if either one of them is a low number, you're not going to go very far. So this is what we remember. It's a process. Anartha Nivriti means we're free from material things, at least 60 or 70%. And if we're going to be free from the material things 60 or 70%, then we have to spend more than half of our time with Krishna than we do with the other things, don't we? You can't spend all of your time at the bar and smoking cigarettes and then think, but I'll surrender to Krishna. We have to do the actions that help us surrender to Krishna. And that's why he's saying to give up the varieties of religion, not that we give up religion, but we don't do the things like worshiping the demigods and doing processes just as ritual only. We do these things to surrender to Krishna and to develop love for him. Sometimes we do them to be purified, sometimes we do them to show love for Krishna, but eventually it comes to the same place. If we show love for Krishna, we become purified. If we do a process to become purified, we also develop love for Krishna. So the main part Krishna is saying here is, don't worry. He's going to remove all these obstacles, but you have to do it. Don't hesitate. They say procrastination is the thief of time. You procrastinate, you won't get it done. So are there any questions or comments at this point? Yes. Fine. As Dina Bandhu calls it, back to Mike.
Just like it says that do not fear,
Mm-hmm.
surrender to me.
Yes.
So when we are in the movement and associate with the devotees,
Mm-hmm.
so that is sufficient that we are surrender, or there is something else we have to do?
Well, we have to do the process, but we have to keep doing more of it. It's just like if you're going to Delhi and you're driving a car, you can't drive for an hour and say, well, the process is by driving, so I'm already there. You're closer, but there's still more to go. Until we can see Krishna face to face, there's still more distance that we have to travel. So if we haven't seen Krishna, we may be doing the right thing, but we haven't done enough of it yet.
But the process we are doing, whatever the process our Acharya has given, if we are following that, and
Yes,
that will help.
that you don't become swayed. At the Radha Kund, there is a sign that says, let me show you how to attain Krishna in this lifetime. Sounds like a good advertisement, right? I had one person put an ad in that thing called the Penny Saver. Send me $10 and I will show you how to make a lot of money. And when people sent him $10, he sent a note back that said, put an ad like this in the Penny Saver. So did we come swayed by that? Should we go to the Radha Kund, find that person who put the sign? He said, you can attain Krishna in this lifetime. So shouldn't that be good enough? If I promise you, if you give me 1,000,000 rupees today, I'll give you Australia in this lifetime. Isn't it worth more than that?
Not possible.
That's the problem. It sounds good, but it's not possible. So, if you've already found a pure devotee, you don't sway off with someone else telling they can give it to you cheaper. Because when you usually get it cheaper, you end up with nothing. But at least you got it for half the price, right? Nothing isn't bad as long as you got it for half the price, right? Like you go out here to buy a car, and they tell you it's 20 lakhs of rupees for a new car. I said, I'll give you one for 5 lakhs. And you give me 5 lakhs, and I give you a toy, right? So, when we find someone we can trust, we need to keep following them. We trust Krishna and we trust Prabhupada. Not a sign that someone attain Krishna in this lifetime. Sounds good though, doesn't it? It's just what we want, isn't it? But does that mean that he can give it to you? I'll give you $1,000,000 next year if you give me a crore of rupees right now. Does that sound good? You're making 7 times on your money, aren't you? Yeah, you have to make sure. That's why when we find something we can trust, then we surrender to that. I was reading in one purport that it doesn't make much sense to to get your love and nourishment from one place, but you give your love and attention somewhere else. We're getting our love and nourishment and spiritual advancement from Prabhupada and Krishna, but then we're going to go give our attention to somewhere else, whether it's material or some process. People go out to the Radhakund to meet the Babajis because they can give it to you simpler. Isn't it? Right?
In the beginning of the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna is explaining so many things to Arjuna. Arjuna is bewildered.
Mhm.
How can I kill my father, teacher and my grandfather?
Mhm.
So he was bewildered, and after explaining so many things, and he is asking so many questions from Lord, and Lord is giving him a lot of clarification.
Mhm.
But still, at the end, Lord says, now whatever I have told you, you forget and just surrender it to me. So what does that mean?
Well, he said just before this, you deliberate fully and do as you wish. And then he's telling him here, he says, you surrender to me and I will free you from all sinful reactions and you have nothing to fear. He's giving him the cost of value. Just surrender unto me. It's just like if I say, just buy this product for me and you'll never need another one. He's not forcing him to do it. He's telling him what will happen if he does it. Saying, you surrender to me, I will free you from all sinful reactions.
So suppose this 1866 verse is in the beginning of the first chapter, first verse. Then what will be the...
Well, I can't speculate on what it would be if it was somewhere else. It's like they say in a court of law, this calls for speculation. And so I can't really answer what it would be if it was somewhere else. That's
So it's a process.
Krishna's given it the way it is because that's the way it should be given. So and it's obvious why.
So that means we have to go through process.
Yeah, we go through the
We cannot
process.
directly surrender. We have to go through process, then surrender.
Well, you're surrendering as you're going through it. It's a process of surrender. Just like when you're selling a product to someone, first you explain it out to them, you get them interested in it, you show them the benefits of it, you show them what they'll be missing if they don't have it, and all the while they're gradually getting, just like when Vaisheshika is selling a book, first he gets the people's attention, then he tries to get their interest, then he tries to create a desire, then getting them to surrender to buy it is easy because you've gone through the rest of it. So we just have to go through this Bhagavad-Gita and study the way it's laid out, not speculate what it would be like if it was in a different order.
Suppose the Chowkidar comes and says that you said surrender to Krishna, so I surrender to him. So now all my sinful activities and that will be cleared.
Yes. If he really meant that. It's a whole process here. You can't just say it and not mean it. Surrender means you surrender.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Any other? Yes. Give it to Adi Dev.
Das.
Das.
Boss.
Hare Krishna. This you said that Prabhupada said that don't bring me I love you, bring me my shoes.
Yes.
Similarly, it was in Kartik Prabhupada Katha, Shuddhagiti Prabhu said that service means love.
Yes.
And love means service, and service means love. So, but I'll give you 2 instances from the scriptures, so you reconcile it or say something
Yes.
about it. Nectar of Devotion says that one should see at the deity with great devotion.
Yes.
So that is not doing any practical service for the deity, like deity has bring water or clean the shoes, silver shoes, whatever the pujari does. Second is, it is mentioned in the scriptures that one who attends the Mangalarti, he gets the same benefit as the pujari doing the Mangalarti. Meaning, so again that was, I didn't do anything, I just attended, okay?
But you're participating in it.
Yeah. So my question is, sometimes like this passive kind of activities, like remembering Krishna is also not active service, but it is kind of, I'm in my room or wherever, I'm remembering Krishna. Anyway, I just said, I don't know.
The whole point of it here, as it says, is to surrender to Krishna. If you're doing it actively and passively, but you have to include some of both. You don't just do the actions and not think of Krishna and appreciate the deity, and you don't just appreciate the deity without doing something. So either one of those should give you the impetus to do both.
Yeah.
That's the idea there. If you have one, you should use that as the impetus to also have the other. All right? Is that enough? Hare Krishna.